Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Totally Well Show. I'm your host, Joyce Strong. The Totally Well Show is a place where we get curious, ask questions, and explore everything to do with health, human behavior, fitness, longevity, nutrition, mental health, performance, spirituality, wellness, and all the things it takes to help you live the highest quality, most fulfilling life. Today, we're going to talk about playing and neuroplasticity and movement. And my guest is Maria Skinner. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you.
Maria,
good to be here.
Thank you. Maria is from Starfish Dance and Yoga. And where's your studio?
In West Concord.
In West Concord. And I'm going to ask you some questions because I really don't know too much about what you do, but I know that you're an expert in connecting movement with the brain and playing.
All right.
So what is brain health fitness?
Well, brain health is something that is so dynamically changing right now, what we think of as brain health. It used to be that people thought that you are born with a certain amount of brain cells and that's all you have until you're gone. And not just brain cells, it's really the connections between the cells that are important. Mm-hmm. And so for many, many years, people said, you know, you should read a lot, you should do Sudoku puzzles, you should do all these things that use your brain, like keep doing math. But the latest brain science shows us that what we need in order to stay cognitively fit, to keep our brains healthy, is a combination of the body and the brain working together. So things that don't include the body aren't feeding all the different functions of the brain that we need in order to keep a healthy brain. And it used to be that when you ask people what's your main concern as you get old, people would say heart health, or they don't want to get cancer, or hypertension, things that were more associated with an aging population. But now the major health concern really all over the world is loss of cognitive function. And so one of the things that brain health fitness addresses is how to keep our brains at optimum fitness so that we can either diminish that cognitive decline or improve it, or at the very least maintain it, really for all ages. However, it's the aging population that tends to be more interested. You know, when the thing starts breaking down is when we're like, wow, maybe we should fix it, rather than starting from a young age, keeping our brains really healthy.
So it sounds like it has to do with starting young to improve the health from an early age, but also building the habit of doing that?
Yeah, well, see, this is the thing. When we're little, we play.
Yeah.
Okay, and well, two things. When we're young, especially, like think about a baby that's just learning how to use their bodies. And that's what they really found, that the main function of the brain is not to learn how to write novels or create quantum physics. Really, the main function of the brain, which is awesome that we can do that, is to teach the body how to live on the planet, to teach us how to be in our bodies and move our bodies so that we can live and do all the things that we want to do. That's really the main purpose of the brain. All these other things that we humans have created, amazing. We have these beautiful frontal lobes that, you know, I don't know where they're going to take us. Maybe to the moon again. Maybe we'll go live there. And so when we're little, especially when we're learning how to come from this very larval state, which we're born in, you know, little babies that can barely move, to walking, and then all the things that we learn how to do to live in the world, our brains are so neuroplastic. They are changing. So the brain is just growing and growing and growing and growing. All kinds of, I almost imagine it like a tree, you know, like all the branches coming out, and we're learning new things every day. And I don't know if you remember what it was like to be a kid and to be playing, or to be a little older and like learning new things about the world, and it's so exciting. That's something that's somewhere in the 20s. Biologically, I think that our bodies know that we've done all the learning we need to do to be on the planet. Now we need to start pruning back and focusing So that's also a time when a lot of us go from playing a lot to working. And the energy of work, in some ways, is more about the energy of mastery. You know, we want to master something. We want to get really good at stuff. And especially in our culture where work tends to be specialization. I think in the past when people were farmers or they were living more on the land, people did a lot of different things. Now we specialize, and sometimes you find people that spend hours and hours and hours doing just one thing. And sometimes it's not just one thing with their brains, but there's the, working at a vitamin factory and all you're doing is, closing the vitamins. And so that creates not only a pruning of the brain from a play perspective. We're no longer playing, now we're working. It also, the body's doing a lot less. So for me to be sitting in a computer all day doing this, even though my brain's going, what I'm doing here with my body is not, there's not a lot of variety. It's not really feeding all the other functions of the brain that need to stay active and healthy in order for, I really think that it's almost like we're telling our brain, hey, I don't need these parts anymore. So it just starts shutting down. And one of my personal theories, not science, is that when that starts happening, those parts of the brain start shutting down, and it's like use it or lose it. It's just like the body.
So just to be clear, neuroplasticity means?
Neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to change. Okay. That's really what it means. When you break it down, neuro is brain, nervous system, really. And then plasticity is like plasticine, you can move it, you can change it, you can do different things with it. And so again, one of the theories was that as we get older, we really can't learn new things because our brain stops having the ability to do that. Biologically, there is something that changes. However, in order for us to keep our brain changing, now we need to make an effort. So when we're little, it's just happening. When we're older, we need to make an effort. Partly, I think it's cultural. It's almost like when you're little and your mom says, go out and play. She doesn't say, go out and create some new neurons. She says, go out and play. And then as we get older, we need to actually take ourselves out to play. Because the culture itself may not be doing it. And also because I think when we start reaching into that place where we want mastery, then we don't value play as much. And you find that, I find in a lot of the classes that I teach where people come in, and one of the things that I invite them to do is to play and be silly, and be joyful and do something they've never done before, is that a lot of times people feel foolish. And that's something when we're little, we don't feel foolish. We just play, we pretend to be all kinds of things that when we're grown up, we're like, well, you better grow up. That's not something that adults do. And so, really, this whole thing just makes our ability to change our brains harder. We have to make the effort. And the thing, too, that's interesting about that is that there's something emotional about it as well. So it's not just about play for mental fitness. I believe that play is also good for our hearts, and our hearts and our brains are completely intertwined.
So good for your hearts, good for your brain.
It's good for your body.
Good for your body. Let's see, some other questions. Oh, now we chatted a little bit before, and you mentioned something about the 5 functions of the brain that we need to remain activated for us to be healthy.
Yes. So
can
here
you
they
teach
are.
me
Ready?
about that? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have actually a word. We use the word smack, like smack.
Okay.
And that's the sound of neurons firing. So here they are, easy to remember. S is strategic planning. And strategic planning is figuring out how to get from one place to another. So for instance, on my way here, I know my way to the high school, but I know that I need to go down this road and then make a right and then make a left. And so that's strategic planning. Then we have memory and recall. And we kind of separate the two a little bit. Memory would be, for instance, I remember playing the piano. I used to play the piano when I was younger, so I remember it. Recall would be, for instance, I have never played a flute, although I can recall seeing people play a flute. So both of those activate the same area of the brain, but they're two different things in a way. Then analytical thinking, which sometimes sounds like it's like strategic planning, but it's a different aspect of it. Analytical thinking is about breaking parts down. So for instance, if somebody were to say, let's look at the anatomy of the body, then the body as a whole, but we can look at the different parts, like there's the feet, there's the legs, there's the arms. When you have a recipe, analytical thinking is the part that allows us to look at the different ingredients, and then when do we put them in is strategic planning. Does that make sense? So then we have creativity and imagination. Again, they're both connected to the same function, but they're a little different. So imagination first. Imagination is when I actually can imagine something happening in my mind. So right now I'm imagining a beautiful rose. Creativity would be, now I'm imagining the rose turning into a gorilla. So that's about, creativity is about using images in our minds to create something different. And creativity can also happen, like say in a recipe where you say, okay, I'm gonna take some chocolate and mix it with some cayenne and let's see what happens. The last one is kinesthetic learning. And kinesthetic learning is using the body to train the brain what to do. So for instance, when you're first learning how to play, say, basketball, you're playing basketball and you're bouncing the ball around and you shoot the basket and you realize as you're shooting the basket that your arms probably needed to be higher. So then that's the body teaching the brain. So the brain says, okay, next time we shoot, we'll bring our hands a little higher. And kinesthetic learning is what we're doing all the time. I mean, for a little, baby, they don't read a book about, well, how am I going to walk? They're using their bodies to learn how to do it. So those are the 5 functions.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds familiar. I think I told you I teach ice hockey to my granddaughter who is
I didn't know
soon
that.
to be
Wow.
5. Yeah, so we're on the ice and practicing the movement. So people are different kind of learners. Like they have different ways to take things in. And I will explain it with words and I will show them. But them going out and doing it and practicing the movements, even though, so I'll look to slow it down to see that they have the idea. And now it's just a matter of connecting the neurons to the movement to make it smooth and get to where they
Right.
want to go. So I teach them the fundamental positioning. And then you get to see it all happen. And plus they're young, so some things aren't developed yet.
Oh, yeah.
So as they get older, you see improvement
Right.
just because,
Well,
they've
that's the
matured.
thing.
Yeah.
They say that there's a window for language.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that it's the same for movement.
Yeah. Well, on the other hand, I didn't start skating until my 40s, and
Wow.
so I think I expanded.
Neuroplastic,
Yeah.
yes. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Let's see. Oh, now we've been talking about play and touching on play, and did we finish covering that area of why it's
Let
important?
me think, what else about play? I think that when we get to actually using some of these games, these tools together, we'll talk a little bit more about play.
Okay, all right. What are in your? Do you teach in individually, or do you teach people in groups? How do you apply?
Well, I have 3 different ways that I share this work. One is that I teach dance classes where we're upright and we're using these different functions of the brain within a class format.
Okay.
Then I have another one that's more chair-oriented, and then also I work with individuals if they want to work. Usually it encompasses some of the brain health, but also some body-oriented work where it's more fitness, where we spend a long time together. What I really like about the group classes is that it really feels like we're all playing together. And you know, it's a lot more fun to play with a bunch of people. Like 2 is like a conversation and 3 or more is a party. So there's that sensation of we're playing, we're celebrating.
Do you work with people who are trying to get fit, or let me finish the question. Trying to get fit, or do you work with people who have had perhaps injury or maybe stroke or some other cardiovascular event or arthritis? Like what kind of populations?
I teach all kinds. I mean, I stay pretty much with adults right now, but I work with children, and I've had people in my classes that there's a woman right now who has Alzheimer's. And it's kind of on a decline. However, she shows up to class. Sometimes she just stands in the back of the class and watches, and that allows her to, you know, her brain is still going even if she's not doing all the movements. She loves it. I've had people with Parkinson's come into classes where they're doing whatever they can. There's been some people that have had strokes, and this work is so good to help people reconnect after stroke.
So is it considered therapy, or is it an adjunct to therapy? You're not a therapist,
I'm not
right?
a therapist, but I almost feel like I don't know if I believe in that word as a thing in itself. I feel like all life can be potentially therapeutic, especially when we're with people and we're sharing something that we love. So in these classes, I have people with all kinds of different abilities. So in the same class, like the person with the stroke, with the person with the Alzheimer's, with a super fit person over here that's got no issues to speak of, all together. And that creates this sense of community. We're all in it together.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's see, what other questions did I have? You said you worked with kids. Kids can do this. You work with children. You work with older people. Anybody in between.
Anybody with a brain.
Anybody with a brain can do this.
Yeah,
Pets?
absolutely.
Can you do it with pets?
You know, I don't know if pets really need it. They just play all the time.
Yeah, that's true. I was wondering, can we play?
Yes.
Yeah? Can we try some things?
Okay, we're going to try a couple of things. So let's take off our shoes because, you know, when you play, you should never wear shoes.
All right,
and then you
shoes
can all
off.
see my nice little blue socks. Okay. So
Try not to knock our microphones off.
I know.
Yeah.
We're going to have to be careful. Okay, so let's see. The first thing we'll do is, first of all, usually I use music. We don't have music today. Not a big deal. We're going to do a joint activation exercise.
So what is the purpose for what we're doing? I mean, I know we're going to have fun and play.
Well, the purpose is we're going to be activating those 5 areas of the brain.
Are you able to differentiate what we're doing with each activity, or it just...
What we'll do is after each one, I'll ask you, so did we use this? Did we use this? Did we use this? Did we use it? Okay, want to do that?
Yeah.
See, it's a whole game, and there's a test at the end.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, okay, not just kidding. So we're going to first do a joint activation, and then what we'll first do is we'll just start by moving the left wrist, and then moving your left elbow, moving your left shoulder. Let's come into the left hip. I know it's a little tricky in a chair, but we can do it. Let's move the left knee and the left ankle. And then we're going to take a break. We're going to take an intermission in the spine, and we're just going to move all 26 vertebrae. Don't you feel better already?
Yeah. Now, when I'm doing this movement, am I like moving... I was trying to keep moving everything, but I could stop that part and move
Well, we could isolate. For now,
yeah.
we're just waking up each of the joints.
Okay.
And then we're going to come up to the right elbow. The right shoulder.
Yeah.
Right elbow.
Right shoulder. Yeah, the right shoulder.
Right wrist. Right hip. Right knee. See, with joints, it's interesting. It's hard to move one without moving the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Right ankle. Okay, so then that was just a joint activation. And now we're going to use all our joints. Are you ready? To become an octopus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, isn't that fun?
I'm getting a little core in there, too.
I know, exactly.
Are we in water? Are
We
we swimming?
must be in water, otherwise we would be in trouble.
Or we could be in a cloud.
Yeah, I know. And now, well, maybe you can be like a squid, and now you're gonna shoot out ink. Ready? Okay, now let's become eagles. Yes, eagles. We're flying.
We do
And
this on
eagles-
the ice. We do, I can't do it here, but we do a spread eagle, open hips.
Show me
and-
how you do it.
Well, it's with the legs, but I don't want to do it here because it's not very ladylike. But
Ah,
without the hockey equipment.
but
But
with
the hips
the-
open up
Oh,
and
gotcha.
the knees open up. Yeah, and I'm wearing a dress, so.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
But I'll show
Okay.
you on the ice when you come on the ice
I
with
can't
me.
wait. I can't wait. Okay, so then still using our joints, still activating our joints. Let's come here. Let's bring one foot forward, and we're going to go
Moving
and
forward
do.
and
We're
see.
going to pretend, but no, we're not. We're going to really do an amazing swan dive with 2 double flips.
All right.
Ready? Oh. I want you to do it in your mind. You are doing the flips. Ah. Whew. All right, so let's take a break and talk about which of the 5 functions of the brain, if not, I think they were all in there.
Oh,
So strategic planning.
so strategic planning was, well, I was watching you to figure out, to copy what you were doing and then trying to figure out the order, like I was saying. To
Awesome.
Keep, yeah,
Got
to
it.
keep the direction of what things were going.
Awesome. Okay, memory and recall.
So I just did the swan dive.
Beautiful. I know, right? Okay, analytical thinking.
And the recall piece of it is whether or not I can remember maybe the order that we did it.
Mhm.
Like, I know we did it, but I don't remember the order. Like, I couldn't remember the words, and so I had to use the teleprompter. So what was the next one?
Analytical thinking.
Analytical thinking. I don't know, maybe trying to figure out how to separate like the joints, like when I was trying to move the knee and move the ankle, like trying to figure out how to put those together. Is that,
Yep.
yeah?
Yeah, because you're thinking about the parts
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
they go together, how they fit
Yeah,
together.
can I separate it? I had to kind of
Yeah.
try it. It wouldn't have worked if I just tried to think about it first. I had to kind of think and try it and then correct it, try and correct.
And so that was kinesthetic too. You already have the last one. And then what about creativity, imagination?
Well, the ink
Yeah.
is squirting the ink out and, making out what we could possibly be. So that drill I was telling you about with the hockey players is the quack quack drill. And
Oh,
it
that's
actually got a
great.
lot of posts on LinkedIn. So, oh my goodness, we only have 5 minutes. So the quack quack drill is the kids approach the cone and they have to open their hips and put their heels together and toes out and open their knees
Wow.
up. And so we quack because that distracts them and they become ducks and they're waddling or penguins or something like that.
That's
So,
great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, one of the other things that I wanted to say about as we're doing this is that part of what helps the brain grow, create new neural pathways, is to do things we've never done before, or to do things we've done before in different ways. So, for instance, I don't know if you've ever tried to be a squid before.
No.
So there you go.
Yeah.
And then to do things we've done in different ways. So you were just showing me how to do the stuff that you were doing on ice, but you're trying to do it on a chair.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then that's actually, so you and I have just created a whole bunch of new neural pathways.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
It is so exciting. Yeah. It's amazing to me too how familiar it is to me in my realm on the ice where I've become comfortable with it. But I constantly try to come up with novelty and new ideas and sometimes we're doing the exact same game except this time I'm the princess and you're the dragon.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's the thing about keeping it fresh.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something exciting about it.
Yeah.
There's I just remember these times when I used to wake up and be like, oh my God, I have another day to learn all these new things.
Yeah.
And I felt like for a while that was like not happening for me. But since I've been playing with this brain work, I feel like it's happening every day.
So how has it changed you?
It's made me more playful.
Yeah.
I was like a hard worker for many, many years.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I'm just done working.
So do you manage stress better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things are funnier.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think humor is probably the best gift we have.
Yeah. Can you give me an example?
Oh my God. Okay, driving down the road and getting mad at somebody in front of me who's going really slow, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting mad, and just I started joking with myself by saying, I'm just being really optimistic right now because I feel like everybody should just get out of my way, and it just cracks me up to be able to think that way,
Yeah.
rather than feel angry or like this is keeping me from my work. It's just funny.
Yeah.
To
yeah.
just
to be able to change that perspective.
and to laugh at myself and to play and say, wow, well, for some reason the universe wants me to drive really slow today, and okay.
Well, we have 2 minutes left before the show ends, so I want to make sure I get my question in for
Okay.
you. So what are the top 3 things that you choose to do to make sure that you are totally well?
Yeah, that's such a great question, and it's hard to pick 3, but I'm going to do it. So the first one is movement. I absolutely have to move my body every day, and so whether it's dance or walking or just being aware that I need to be living my life in my body rather than sitting, that definitely helps me. I get a little depressed when I don't move a lot. The other is that in the last 5 or 6 years, I've stopped eating all sugar. And believe it or not, that has probably changed my life more than anything I've ever done.
Wow.
I wish I'd done it earlier.
Well, being a nutrition expert, I can appreciate
I knew you
the benefit.
would. I knew you would. Yeah, and I don't miss it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't feel, and when people say, oh, but don't you miss it? I'm like, no, not one little bit. And then the other thing that I'm doing a lot more now is making sure that I get enough sleep. I feel like when I became a mom, that really changed. And then I felt, again, like work was more important than sleep. And now I'm really finding that sleep is really benefiting me.
Yeah, there's a lot of research about what happens when we sleep in terms of cleaning things out in the brain area. Yeah. So just to thank you for sharing that,
you're
that
welcome.
personal touch. And just to remind me of the website that I go to learn more about what you do.
So my personal website, well, my studio website is www.starfishdanceyoga.com.
Starfish Dance Yoga. Okay.
.com, and that's my studio in West Concord. And then Ageless Grace is the thing that we played with today was from Ageless Grace, and that's www.agelessgrace.com.
Okay. Well, Maria Skinner, thank you so much for visiting
Thank you
the
for
Totally
having
Well
me.
Show, and maybe we can do another deep dive.
Yes.
And thanks for tuning in today to the Totally Well Show.